I'll give Moto Rotor II this. It does exactly what you want with a sequel. More of everything. And that's handy, since the first Moto Rotor was really characterized by not having enough of anything. Moto Rotor was one of the early third-party games on the PC Engine. Its big selling point was being the first game to really take advantage of the 5-player multi-tap. You and 4 of your closest friends could engage in a nice top-down race. I wound up not liking it for a lot of reasons, but maybe Moto Rotor 2 is a big enough improvement. The plot of the game is that in the year 2015, mankind has achieved a utopia. So naturally they invent death sports with cars. The game is set in 2019, so it didn't even take them 5 years before they decided to do that. When you start the game, you're given your choice of 4 courses. And this isn't actually selecting courses, you're choosing between racing seasons. Each of these courses has 8 races in it. And as you probably expect, you get points based on how well you place in every race. And the person with the most points at the end of the season wins the cup. You start each season with $5,000. And before every race, you have to shop for parts. This is the single biggest deciding factor when it comes to winning. There are 3 fundamental parts that you can buy: wheels, an engine, and a body. Wheels control handling, engine gives you top speed, and body lets your vehicle survive more damage. Now here's where things get complicated. You don't have one car in Moto Rotor, you have 3 vehicles. One 4-wheeled car built for speed, one 6-wheeled tank built for toughness, and a hovercraft built for, flying. Yes, you still buy tires for the hovercraft, it's just that it changes your fan. Parts are non-transferable between these vehicles. An engine in a tank can't be used in a car, and the car's body upgrade can't be used on a hovercraft. That has an unfortunate consequence for Moto Rotor 2. You see, while you can probably win the first 2 races with just whichever basic upgrades you put on, after that point, you really need to max out your engine to have a hope of coming in first. And you can't do that if you're spreading out your upgrade purchases among all 3 vehicles. In fact, you can't do that if you're spreading out your upgrade purchases between 2 vehicles. It's a situation where you really have to pick one right at the outset and then stick with it. You can sell back unused parts for some extra cash, but you don't get a full refund. So focus on one vehicle and make upgrading the engine a priority. There are also upgrades that you can purchase that will enhance your vehicle a bit more, let you be able to jump, or fly for short distances, or shoot your opponents. These options can be equipped and are used in just that one race. So if you equip it and then don't use it, well, it's still gone. Those consumable items are also almost as expensive as the permanent upgrades, so they might not be the best purchases to make early on. And then it's time to race. The controls are simple enough. Button 2 is the accelerator, and button 1 uses your special item. A change from the original Moto Rotor is that the racetrack is always going up. It'll twist and bend, but you're still always going to be heading in that upward direction. And that saves you from some of the more confusing layouts. On the beginner course, every track only has one type of terrain, but the later courses have a mix of terrains. Every terrain has a different set of properties and obstacles that you can run into, and of course, certain vehicles will handle different terrains better. The car is best at the road course, while the tank is able to handle off-road courses better. The hovercraft is a special one. It floats above the track, and as such, it doesn't interact with a lot of the terrain that you'll encounter. Okay, sometimes it can bump into things, but you can usually tell the difference between things you can hit and things you can't. Another addition for Moto Rotor 2 is that you can now collide vehicles together. Both cars take damage in this situation, which means that the body becomes much more important. Also, when it comes to hovercrafts, hovercrafts can ram into each other, but not the vehicles on the ground. You can also do damage by shooting your opponents with various weapons, and if someone falls off the back of the screen. When that happens, they're flown forward, and you hit button 1 to drop back onto the track. But the whole time that you're in the air for this, you're taking damage. That means it's best if you drop back immediately, and if you do it fast enough, you won't even take any damage from falling back. If your car gets destroyed, it's game over instantaneously. You do not get to continue on to the next race. Of course, your computer opponents don't have that problem. They'll come back next time. While you're racing, there's a few indicators to help you. You get a bit of warning before a left or right-hand turn, and then sometimes there'll be an exclamation point that appears to let you know an obstacle's coming up. These obstacles might be the road shrinking down to one side, or splitting, or it might have a gate that you can only pass through in the middle, or there could be a jump. You just don't know until you ram face first into it. That is one place where the hovercraft shines, because it doesn't care about those obstacles, it just passes over it. The weakness of the hovercraft is that you have absolutely no traction. If the car turns on a dime, well, then the hovercraft turns on a $20 bill. Flying over things is a huge advantage, but you're gonna be falling off the back of the screen because you can't make those turns. When the race is over, you'll get money based on how well you did, so that's yet another reason you'll want to come in first. And then there's a screen letting you know what type of terrain you'll encounter on the next track. After you complete 8 races, a winner is declared, the credits roll, and that's it. There are a handful of power-ups that are scattered on the course. There are purple blocks that you run into and will spit out an orb that someone can collect. There's 2 different levels of repair, a speed boost, an invincibility, and one that damages your vehicle. Something that you might have noticed as I'm playing is that the races in Moto Rotor are very chaotic. Everybody's bouncing around everywhere, shooting everybody else. You won't have too much trouble keeping track of where you are, but handling all of the incoming threats is going to be tough. So what did Japanese players think of Moto Rotor II? Well, I found a lot of enthusiasm for the game. I saw a lot of people talk about it as their favorite multiplayer game when they were kids. My own feeling on Moto Rotor II is that it is a huge improvement over the original, but I'm still not super fond of it. I've gone from dislike to indifference. They can use that as a pull quote if they do another re-release of this one. I still wasn't having a lot of fun with the racing here. The catch-up mechanics are there for multiplayer to work, but prevented me from feeling like I was ever really doing well. On top of that, the computer opponents scale up too fast. It feels like they're getting $15,000 a race regardless of how well they do, while the maximum I can get is $10,000 a race. By the 3rd race, it feels like they have fully upgraded cars, while at the same time they're spending $10,000 a run on consumable items. The AI admittedly probably needed some help, because without power-ups, it's kind of bad at the game. When you have to give a computer player that much of an obvious advantage over a human, it's not much fun. So even though I can look at Moto Rotor II and go, yes, this is an obvious, huge improvement, I still wasn't enjoying myself. At least this time, I can see how this would be better in a group.